What if the career moves that scare you most are actually the ones that shape you best? Rory's entire professional journey has been built on one counterintuitive principle: lean into the anxiety. Professionally Psyched is the podcast that brings you cutting-edge psychology research and real-world insights from our psych community of clinicians, researchers, and educators alike. In our special alumni spotlights, we chat to graduates from our psychology degree programs about how their skills learned in the classroom have become powerful tools supporting diverse career journeys and successes. Hi everyone, and welcome to Professionally Psyched. I'm Jessica Muller, PhD candidate in public health at James Cook University, and before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge the custodians of the land on which we record, and for me today that's the Bindal and Wulgurukaba peoples. And I pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and cultures from wherever you may be tuning in from across the country. In this alumni spotlight, Dr. Amanda Krause speaks with Rory Stubbings-Laverty, a provisional psychologist who tells us why understanding those dreaded statistics are absolute gold in clinical practice, and why he believes psychology teaches you not what to think, but how to think. So grab your headphones and get ready to get professionally psyched about embracing the unknown. Enjoy.
Rory, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. To start, could you please introduce yourself?
So my name is Rory Stubbings-Laverty. I'm a provisional psychologist.
So can you maybe walk us through a bit of that evolution from finishing your undergrad degree to where you are today?
So I guess off the bat, I did a bit of facilitation of sort of psychoeducational courses for about 6 months after I finished. That was working with things like Circle of Security, with families and parents. Someone's doing some child psychoeducational courses on sort of social and emotional development, and a range of other sort of psychoeducational courses. But I think really I like working with people. So I felt like a natural transition to move into counselling and sort of doing sort of family counselling in the family system sort of space, relationship and couples counselling along the way. I've done some EAP work as well, so employee assistance program work with different organisations as well. So that's crisis intervention and crisis support. I've also just sort of begun doing some work in schools, so really navigating barriers to schooling engagement for young people, really from a trauma-informed sort of a lens, really understanding neurodevelopment and how neurodevelopment may affect school engagement. Yeah, and then recently moving back into sort of counselling with younger people over the last couple of months. So really doubling back into my bread and butter, which is counselling and therapy.
Yeah, so you've worked with different populations in different settings. You sort of talked about work and school, families, and all of this. Is where you are sort of what you had imagined as an undergrad? Did you see yourself working as a counselor in a school setting, or sort of were you surprised by where you've ended up?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm definitely surprised. I think like on the way through uni, I would have thought maybe pursuing something in sort of like the neuropsych area was something I was really interested. So if you asked me 5 years ago what my career pathway might have looked like today, it probably would have been in sort of more of the neuropsychology area. So no, I think it's been pivoting on the journey along the way, and I feel like at times where I'm at an impasse or at an intersection of trying to decide where I'm going to go moving forward, I've really found a lot of my discomfort or concern or anxiety around making a decision often results in putting myself into situations that are new or novel and finding myself developing a new set of skills and a new area of passion and love. So yeah, I guess my anxiety sort of leads me to growth, and I think that's been a wonderful takeaway. It's been a 180 from what I expected it to be on the journey. So I hope that answers your question, Amanda.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful to acknowledge that we do have to face some uncertainty, some uncomfortableness to actually push ourselves and figure out what it is that you want to do. And I think you found passion by pushing yourself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think I have a preconceived idea about what things might look like or might be, but until I dip my toes into things, I guess I sort of really opens up my minds to what things might truly look like, rather than just what my perceptions of what they might be without any sort of foundation or experience. So yeah, definitely I found passion along the way.
speaking to your passion, what are you really interested in now? Sort of like, what's the big issue that you're excited about working on?
Well, I guess really in my current role, it's really sort of moving towards trauma-informed practice. That's really a new area of development for me in some ways. I think in the past, I think there's been some level of understanding about the impact of trauma and meeting clients where they're at and being aware of what makes us different, that our paths from birth to present can look so different. And I really think I've got a big passion at the moment for, I think a lot of our mainstream educational systems often expect people at the age of 5 to really be coming in with a basic set of skills so that they can learn, and all of the basic subjects that we learn in the first couple of years of mainstream education. So numeracy and literacy, and develop social connections. And a lot of these areas, with impacts from our development, there might be nuanced differences that create diverse circumstances for young people, and that they might not actually, they might require some support and some scaffolding to really flourish in the education system, that we're not all cut from the same cookie cutter in some ways. We're all very diverse and different. So really just trying to, that's been a passion of mine recently, is sort of guiding teachers and educators to kind of be aware of the impact of trauma and how that can create diverse presentations in the first couple of years of mainstream education. Yeah, so that's probably the big area at the moment. I think another one of my recent interests has been on relationship counseling. So I really enjoy relationship counseling, and that's an area of passion and interest. Yeah, that's probably the big two areas in my mind.
And speaking of education, you sort of referenced, neuropsychology, one of the subjects you had when you were here as an undergraduate. Are there any other subjects, topics, theories that you learned, or skills through your undergrad that you put into practice now in sort of your current everyday role?
Oh, definitely. A lot of the subjects really contribute to my ability to function as a professional now. So, for example, stepping into psychology initially, I hadn't yet got my head around preparation for statistics, and I really think that was an area I really wasn't. I guess I always thought about psychology being about the brain and sort of more of a social topic rather than really focusing on statistics and mathematics. But now that I understand more about how validity and reliability work in assessments, and where assessments are best placed, understanding population data and referential norms and stuff for assessments, I feel like I can really see the value in that. Although at the time, in second year uni, I remember thinking, I didn't sign up for maths. I'm not here for maths. I'm here to do brain work. But really, I think looking back, that's one area I really think has been really influential in practice, is being able to pick and choose assessments, being aware of where assessments might be suitable, understanding validity and reliability. So I think that's really been invaluable on the process. And I really enjoyed the way Dr. Dan and yourself, Dr. Krause, your ability to facilitate that was wonderful. A couple of the other ones I really found important were, I think one was an elective that was around sort of like the history of psychology. And so stemming back to sort of the philosophers of, Ionia and ancient Greece, and looking at the way we sort of perceive the world and understand the world, and sort of looking at the process that led up to what we see modern psychology being. I feel like that was really influential, because it really, often things can look so obvious in hindsight, but it really paints a picture of how we've got to where we are now, and our understanding of the brain and the way that we practice. So that's another area I think has been really influential on my professional practice these days. Off the top of my head, everyone I'm thinking of has some relative value for sure. I think environmental psychology as well. I think in the therapeutic space, environment and the way felt safety is for clients and for people. I think that's definitely understand the impact of like spaces and the way that we facilitate our practice. I think that's a really important part of rapport building, for example, in my counseling roles. Geez, I could just go on and on. I think I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. I think some of the other ones, I think there was an elective counseling subject on the way through, which really helped me to harness and understand the micro skills that make up what it is to be sort of in the therapeutic or clinical space, as well. So being aware of, as human beings, we interact socially just in day-to-day life. I think really becoming aware and being able to put a name to what it is that the functional parts of communication and the functional parts of connection was really, really valuable as well. So I think that really has been influential in my ability to, my counseling experience. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of those micro skills, now that you're sort of not in full-time study, how do you sort of maintain and upskill yourself to be on top of things in your role?
Yeah, as far as professional development is concerned, in micro skills and in other areas as well, I often set aside time once a month to really pursue looking at new research and new understanding. So whether that's through, I'm a member of Insight magazine. I also get information through the APS, the Australian Psychological Society. And I'm always looking for new PDs or new professional development opportunities to understand more as well. I think having that curiosity to try and keep up to date is really important. And I feel like as a new idea is shared with me, I kind of have this innate want to know more as well. So it's like a self-feeding machine of like curiosity, it kind of feeds itself to want to know more. I also think peer collaboration as well, working in, I guess, if we work in a silo, if we're working on our own in a solo setting or in silos as a professional practitioner, because I think during some periods there, I'd work from home for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And on the way through, I could often find at times that professional development and that maintenance of my own development, like micro skills, started to sort of dwindle. And so I find that connection and really collaborating with people in the area of practice has been really, really helpful, because I think it's word of mouth as well. We learn about opportunities and areas for development, new areas of research just through collaborating with our peers and colleagues. So I think that's another really big area for me, is really maintaining a peer group and maintaining regular supervision as well.
That's so important for us to have that contact with other people, and as you say, to learn from each other, to feed off each other. And so, to give you this chance to sort of share with our listeners, what advice do you have for students who maybe, like you, aren't sure where they're headed, maybe aren't sure why they're taking some of these core subjects and what the value is going to be? What advice do you have for our students who are about to graduate and have to navigate this world of a career?
Yeah, oftentimes we might be, at least speaking for myself, at times I have anxiety about change and about new experiences or making decisions that, might leave me feeling a bit anxious or unsure. But often I see that, at least through taking, whether I take the opportunity or don't take the opportunity, often there's room for growth. But I often find that sort of leaning into that anxiety, often I'm finding myself really seeing the benefits at the end of or on the way through. Often there's a lot of purpose or meaning behind taking the leap and giving it a chance as well. So really leaning into that feeling, because sometimes it can be a bit anxiety provoking and a little bit uncomfortable, and that can become a bit easier. It is a skill. I imagine it to be a skill as well. We kind of become more comfortable with the unknown, but obviously that's always still there. At least for me, that's always still there for me. I just feel like it's gotten a bit. I'm kind of more used to taking, not risk taking, but sort of, leaning into the anxiety. I think on the way through uni for me, I think a lot of it was tied to my identity. A lot of the time before I actually got into university, I didn't see myself as an academic. I really saw myself as I'm a bit of a mature student. Actually, I dropped out of high school in the later part of grade 12. So I really put a lot of my time and energy into video games, and really wasn't finding much motivation in schooling and mainstream education. Maybe that's where I am today, or working with younger people in the education system. It's an area of passion. But anyway, from there, I think my identity for myself was sort of if I thought about the adjectives I'd use to describe myself, academic would not have been one of them. I really saw myself as somebody that probably wouldn't pursue uni and might continue to work in trade or in customer service. So I think really my university experience was not only one of education and growth, but I really feel like there was some identity shift on the way through. And I feel like connecting with colleagues and peers through my uni journey helped me to kind of identify myself as more of an academic, or to know that I could do that if I chose to, that it was sort of an area that I felt like, wow, I can belong in this space. I find some belongingness. And I feel like that wouldn't have been possible without connection. So I really feel like the people around me, connecting to other people in a learning space, really helped me to feel like I belonged and was welcome there as well. So I really feel like connecting to peers, the past groups, they had peer assisted study sessions, I think, in my first year of uni. And that was massive. That was a very, very impactful experience, because not only was I able to break down my assessments and the criteria and what the criteria was really looking for, but also collaborating with people that are looking to become part of a discipline. And I think in that collaboration, that was really helping me to begin to identify as someone who could go through university and could sort of belong here. If there was one thing I could leave, it was really, I think, attending my tutorials was really important as well. I feel like that was a very impactful thing. So I think sometimes they weren't mandatory and you could get away without participating in tutorials, but I found that a lot of deeper learning occurred in tutorials, that a lot of the stuff I was reading was actually being, re-explored and reiterated. So that was really helpful for deep-seated learning. So yeah, past groups, tutorials were really impactful. Taking opportunities and leading into the anxiety when you feel it, I think can be helpful at times. Obviously, trusting your gut as well, that sometimes maybe too much as well. I feel like there's being aware of what your body's telling you is such an important part. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the big three in my mind, Amanda. Yeah.
That's great, Rory. Thank you for sharing and being open to sharing your experiences. And I think there's a real value in remembering that we don't always know what's ahead of us. And sometimes that might be scary or anxiety producing. But as you say, look for those collaborators, take those opportunities and be, open to what's coming. So thank you, Rory, for joining me on the podcast today.
Oh, thanks, Amanda. It was lovely to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity and your time.
Thanks for listening to Professionally Psyched. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the ongoing support of our Psych community. If you'd like to show your support, or if you want us to cover anything on the pod, reach out via our emails, and don't forget you can listen to full episodes on Spotify.